By the way, this video is going to be about trend lines, and I'm also going to talk about the forecast very briefly, which is also, that is just my personal opinion, no financial advice, of course. That is the disclaimer. You must always keep that in mind. Okay, trend line number one is this one. Now have a look at this trend line, the way it worked. This is reference point number one, and this is reference point number two. But I want to extend it to this point, actually, turning this one into reference point number A, the first point that we use as the foundation for the start of this trend line. And then this one, this point is the second point. Okay, this end of the wick right here, you can see the end of the green candle. And then let's just extend this trend line and let's see how the price behaved towards this trend line when the price did approach it. Look at this one. Now, if you are using only and only these trend lines, or if you intend to use only the trend lines and you do not plan to use any other indicators or anything else, have a look at the mighty power of these trend lines, this trend line specifically. The way the price came down to this trend line, yes, there was this one red candle that closed below this trend line, but that was only one red candle, and there was no confirmation for a sell entry here. A confirmation is something like this. Okay, when the price goes back to the trend line on the same time frame, maybe on the lower time frames as well sometimes, and retests that trend line and then continues in the direction of the breakout. But there was nothing like that in this case, and immediately after that 1 hourly candle, the price broke back into the trend line, and it kept going back upwards. Now if I extend this trend line even further, look at the way this is absolutely mind-blowing. Look at the way the price came down to this specific trend line and then got rejected off it and went back. This was a very, very sharp buy trade on Friday. You might have missed out on this entry because it was very sharp. Nevertheless, the trend line worked. That is the mighty power of trend lines. Now have a look at this trend line as I have zoomed out. One buy entry, another buy entry, even if we do not consider this one just because it was too volatile. What about this one? A nice and decent buy trade. All this would have been your profit if you had entered here. Okay, and if you add indicators to this system, these trend lines, horizontal levels as well, you can increase your chances of making some really good entries. And these trend lines single-handedly, absolutely single-handedly, they can give you so many good entries, valid entries. Now let's have a look at trend line number two. This is something very, very interesting, and I need you to understand this, the role of this trend line, or the way the price behaved towards this trend line, especially if you are new to trend lines, and especially if you are in doubt about the role and the power of trend lines. This one can be even a better example for you to, understand the role, the mighty role of trend lines. And what happened was, reference point number one, reference point number two for this trend line, these 2 points helped us to draw this trend line, okay, and sort of determine the area for the trend line. And then as we extended the trend line, look at the way the price came down to this trend line. The third time, here or here, both the cases were nice enough, and then went up. Beautiful, excellent, a buy trade. And then the price, this was one entry that I wanted to talk about regarding this trend line. And then something even more important that I want to emphasize here, that I want to talk about here, is this breakout. What happens is, whenever you have been able to draw a very good trend line and the price does come back to that trend line and breaks out of it, whether it's a buy trade or a sell, it doesn't matter, a sell trade, it doesn't matter. What matters is the validity of the trend line. You must know how to draw these trend lines correctly. And once you have done that, once you have learned the art of or the science of drawing these trend lines, because it's not, I'm calling it a science because it's not really it's not really difficult, I should say. It's really simple, not easy, but simple enough. Once you practice, well enough, you will know how to draw these trend lines. And the point that I was making here was that if and when you have drawn a trend line correctly, and if the price does come back to that trend line and breaks out of it, just the way it happened here, the price broke below that trend line, mostly, not always, but mostly, that is a genuine breakout, when this kind of a mighty massive breakout happens. Now, what's the difference between these two scenarios? This is a very, very good example, actually a very good comparison. This one, look at the long wick below this red candle, which means the buyers, they pushed the price up as it came below, as it broke below the trend line. But here, by the way, this wick was an indication that the price might continue upwards. And if you have enough experience of the market, you know that when such wicks form under the candles, that is an indication that the price might continue upwards, and vice versa. In the case of this red candle, there is this very small dot below that candle. Almost, you can almost ignore it. This clear, confident red candle was an indication that this was a breakout. And the second point that I want to make here is that once this kind of a breakout has happened, the price mostly does not go back to that trend line, and it continues downwards. Even if it retraces, that retracement is not really a long one, and that is exactly what happened. And see, if you had entered here at the close of this red candle, look at the way the price continued downwards massively in the direction of the breakout. Single-handedly, this trend line would have given you so much profit. And if you combine the Ichimoku cloud and the RSI and the horizontal levels as well, or some other system that you are comfortable using, that you are comfortable with, if you combine some horizontal levels as well, that's even better. But right now in this video, I want to focus mainly on trend lines, and this is a superb example of a trend line. Once it has been broken, the price really continues in the direction of the breakout. Trend line number 3, look at this one. This is once again a beautiful example of a trend line. When it holds its ground and when it gets broken, the price just continues in the direction of the breakout. Point number 1. Point number 2, the first time the price came down to that trend line, broke below it, the candles were small, there were wicks under those candles, which was an indication that the price might continue upwards to retest the trend line, and that is exactly what happened. The price was still in the cloud. That was another indication that the breakout was still not safe enough, and that is exactly what unfolded. And then once the price retested, touched or kissed that trend line, this was actually more than a touch. The price actually broke above the trend line, which might have created some doubts in the minds of some traders, especially keeping in mind these two massive green candles. But then the close of this red candle, that might have confirmed a lot of things, and then a lot of things in terms of a good sell here, and then these candles closing within the cloud, and then this trend line also getting broken. This was a good sell opportunity based on these trend lines, these two trend lines, I mean. The next trend line, okay, all right, it's a little back. Yeah, it was in the past, but let's quickly talk about this one. Point number 1, reference point number 2, the price comes down to this trend line, goes up, comes down, breaks out of it, and then continues downwards. Look at the way the price, once it seems that the price knows these trend lines very well, and it seems that these trend lines, they draw boundaries, very, very strong boundaries. Once that boundary has been broken, let's say by the waterfall of price, once that dam has been broken, the waterfall just continues. This is a very, very good example once again of a breakout which continues in the when the price continues in the direction of the breakout. Look at this trend line. Strong rejection. Amazing, amazing. This is mysterious and beautiful power of trend lines. Reference point number 1, reference point number 2, reference point number 3. Actually, we need only 2 points. The third touch, which is the first touch for us for an entry, it worked. A good decent buy. Once again, a good decent buy from point number 4 as well. Beautiful and amazing. The next trend line, let's move on quickly. Reference point number 1, reference point number 2, and then number 3, which is the first touch for us to give us an entry, whether a buy or a sell entry. Depending on the situation, the green candle goes up massively. Even if you want to be careful and do not want to just enter once the price touches the trend line the first time, yes, that's a good strategy. That's a sensible way of thinking. Look at the way the price, just those small candles, almost very weak candles, they continue downwards. They might have still created some doubts in the minds of the traders that the price might continue upwards and retest the trend line. That did not happen. And then these candles, they continued downwards, and then there was this massive waterfall that we have already talked about. Look at this one, reference point number 1, reference point number 2. After that, the price goes up to this trend line, breaks out of it, comes back to it, retests the trend line, and then goes up massively. Now I want to have some I want to give you some explanation here. I want to explain something to you. Once the price breaks out of a trend line convincingly, even if the price does come back to that trend line, the breakout turns out to be a genuine one. I have seen this over and over again so many times, really, that now it has become simple for me to understand when a breakout happens. This does not mean that I am always right, and this also does not mean that every single time the price breaks out of a trend line, whether a buy in the form of a buy setup or a sell setup, it is always going to work. No, I am not saying that. What I'm saying is this is a system that works, and if you use it carefully enough, if you watch it closely enough, you can immensely benefit from these trend lines. Of course, you can add your own system to it, just the way I always use, mostly, not always, I use horizontal levels, I use the Ichimoku cloud, I use the RSI as well to make sure that I am on the right side of the fence in terms of making a good, decent trade. The next trend line is this one, reference point number 1, reference point number 2. The price comes back to it the first time after these 2 reference points, goes up, gives us a decent little buy, and then breaks below it. Now, you tell me, really, is it really difficult for a trader to, once they have drawn these trend lines carefully enough, is it really difficult to know that the price has broken below the trend line and it might continue in the direction of the breakout? Definitely it is, super simple to know that once the price has broken below or broken above, whatever the case may be, convincingly enough, excuse me, once the price has broken below or above a trend line convincingly enough, that breakout is mostly it is genuine and you can benefit from it big time. And that is exactly what happened here. The price broke below the trend line and then it just continued downwards. Yes, you can keep in mind the outer boundaries of the cloud as well. For instance, this blue line is the outer boundary of the cloud. It is serving as support right now in the case of this scenario, and this lower blue line is of course the other boundary, the opposite side of it. Here it was serving as support, and here it was serving as resistance, but the cloud was very thin. And I have told you before as well, when the cloud is thin, the greater is the likelihood that the price might break out of it. I want to talk about just one more trend line, okay? Because this video is getting longer and longer and I do not want to make a very long video. I think already it is becoming a long video, and I do not want that. Okay, reference point number 1, reference point number 2, the price comes back up to this trend line. The next time, which is the first time for us, once we have drawn this trend line, when I say the first time, I mean the first time when we can make an entry, because you cannot enter here. I mean, there are like 2-3 touches on this trend line, okay, maybe you could have entered at the second touch if you are reckless or if you are in a hurry, but that is a dangerous thing to do. What I do is I consider this whole thing just one point, okay, just one touch, and I prefer to enter on the basis of this trend line for a sell or a buy, keeping in mind this trend line only when the price has moved away convincingly from the trend line and goes back to this trend line the third time, which is the first time for my entry. Only then I do go for an entry, and that is exactly what we can see here. Reference point number 1, reference point number 2, and then the third touch on the same trend line, which is the first point for us to make an entry. Look at the way the price just, the way it moved down so beautifully. And this is where I often say that even if you do not use any other system with these trend lines, you are good, really. But then you have to draw these trend lines very carefully. You have to be very smart. You must learn, the technique of drawing these trend lines, and then you can solely depend on these trend lines. Otherwise, you can have your own system as well that you have been using maybe for a long time, and you know that system very well, just the way I know this Ichimoku cloud and the RSI very well, because I have been using these two indicators for a long time now. I have been using trend lines as well and horizontal levels as well for a long time now, but I have seen that trend lines, that it gives me the upper hand. It gives me such an edge, in terms of my skills, in terms of the sort of the repertoire of my moves as a forex trader. These trend lines, they help me a lot in making the right entries and avoiding the bad entries. And with that, I think I should come to an end. This conversation should come to an end, and I do hope that these trend lines, especially this discussion today, it had some value for you. And I do hope that this conversation, it has told you something better, something new, something powerful. I'll be really happy if you learned something good and if you can benefit from it actually by making some really good, profitable and consistent trades, because only then this knowledge is of value. Simply understanding something but not applying it and not being able to benefit from it in the form of actual profits, it serves no purpose. That knowledge, to me, it has no value. You really, yeah, I mean it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope to see you again. I love talking about trend lines. I do intend to talk about them even more in the upcoming videos as well, but with some more new stuff as well. Especially I intend to create some more videos when I'll be also using horizontal levels as well. I'll be talking much more about the cloud and the RSI as well. Today I completely ignored the two indicators and the horizontal levels as well, because that was the idea. The plan was to talk about the mighty power of the trend lines. And one last thing, I was about to forget it. I told you that I'll try my best to give you a little bit of forecast as well, a little bit of a forecast as well. My opinion about the Monday market. In the first place, there is no opinion really. It is not really easy to give an opinion about the open of the market on Monday, or to give an opinion about the close of the market on Friday, especially when there are some political situations in the world going on. Nobody knows what is going to happen over the weekend. It's not easy to give you a prediction, but still, if we keep in mind the thesis that we have been talking about today in this video, the thesis about the power of these trend lines, it seems if everything goes in a normal way in the world, I mean, the factors that can impact gold positively or negatively, if everything stays normal enough, we can expect, keeping in mind this trend line, we can expect the price to come down. But if it does, I'm not saying that will happen, I'm saying it may or may not happen. Keeping in mind the principle or the rules of these trend lines, we can expect that to happen. And if the price does come down, you must keep in mind this trend line as well. Okay, it might turn out to be support, or if the price does come down to this trend line, we'll see how the price behaves in terms of this trend line. And let's suppose the price breaks out of this trend line early on, at the very start of the session on Monday, we can expect something like this, or on the flip side of it, we can expect something like this. Any of these possibilities can turn out to be real and true. Only time will tell. Fingers crossed. Until next time, bye. Thank you very much.